Today is August 31st, 2020. I am reading the Principia Discordia, or How the West Was Lost. Discordianism, according to Melaclips the Younger, and being the officially hand of. Oh, I can't read that. Hang on. There's another version of it up here, I thought. If you'd like to see the same document, I will leave a link in the description. Here we go. And being the official handbook of the Discordian Society and a beginning introduction to Eresian mysteries, I guess, which is most interesting. Written under inspiration by Melaclips the Younger, omnibenevolent polyfather of virginity in gold and high priest of the heretic fringe and Protestant persuasion. All hail Discordia. This document, if this is your first introduction to it, you've never heard of Discordia, Eris, etc. It's it's a religion as much as it is a joke. So you should bear that in mind as we make our way through this text. So something like omnibenevolent polyfather of virginity in gold and high priest of the heretic fringe. It's just beautiful poetry as far as I'm concerned. This is the stylized text, and this is the original edition. We'll skip over the legal mumbo jumbo because the world is chaos and we don't care. And we'll take a brief glance at the content. The real meat of the text starts here about the Discordian Society. So that's where we'll begin. And then the Sacred Chow will be explained, which is the next picture you will be seeing. Okay, about the Discordian Society. This is where we begin reading the text in earnest. The Discordian Society is a group of people with a common bond, that of discord. It is quite true that all men inherently manifest discord, as all men inherently manifest order, the two principles being in eternal conflict, which is itself discordant. I like that. In order to start categorizing the world, we have to begin with the foundational dichotomy. And one such foundational dichotomy that seems truly foundational to me is the order versus discord. It's not Democrats versus Republicans or the East versus West or even good versus evil, right? Which is a more fundamental dichotomy. Order, disorder, Democrat, Republican, East, West, North, South, good, evil. Which is the most fundamental dichotomy? I suspect it might be competence, incompetence. But that's a different religion altogether. But the Discordian Society refers to an elite population, certainly not just anybody. There are three Discordian movements. Oh, by the way, it is just anybody. For example, I am a priest in the elite order of the Discordian Society. I am the high priest in the elite order of the Discordian society. I was made a high priest by Honorable Robert Anton Wilson. Uh, and by listening to me right now, I am making you the priest, high priest in the Discordian society, whether you want it or not, because Discordian society and the religion is a religion of chaos. And, well, how can there be more chaos in this world than me making you a pope in a religion for which you perhaps have never heard of until 5 minutes ago? So embrace the chaos. It might be the message of this narrative. There are three Discordian movements about us, and hence three sorts of Discordians. The Aristoqueans, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Aristasqueans, there we go. Aristasqueans. Eris being the goddess of chaos. Greek goddess of chaos. Greek, I believe. Maybe Roman? Greek. I think Greek. Aristasqueans, the Aristics, and the Arisians. Let's go with that. It is this latter group, the Arisian, let's say Arisian, Arisian sounds good. Arisian movement sounds fancy. Arisian movement. That represents the esoteric religious fold that is dedicated to true wisdom, which they, and only they, realize can only be found in the Elysian mysteries. Consequently, it is the Arisian movement over which we are most concerned. Besides, nobody but the Arisians even know about the others anyway. So you have to study the mysteries to find out much of anything in the first place. This text is 70 or so pages long, so I'm hoping we'll get through it in one sitting. Well, one sitting for me, but through the magic of TV. You can watch it in as many sittings as you like. The Principia Discordia is the official handbook of the Arisian movement, and together with the various holy works and some of the epistles and all that, it will quietly but exhaustively explain everything that is worth knowing. In the words of one of apostles of Eris, Discordiu, one the Aristonianilist, Gorf Slickner Hinak Guaslepper Flix. So obviously, this text ought not be taken very seriously. This will become extremely obvious in the next section when we talk about the yin and the yang of Discordia, aka the Hodge and the Podge. It feels a lot like Eastern wisdom distilled through the Western blue-collar American worker. That's what this religion feels like to me. So it's not without a charm. So we shall begin by explaining the disorganization, for crying out loud. Disorganization of the society in all its glory detail. Instead of gory detail, it's glory detail. I like that. Taking each part and subpart and sub-subpart in its turn, and we guarantee that any soul who finishes the work will have reached to some degree the divine state of chaos. Hold the foregoing table of disorganization in one hand, the Principia Discordia in one hand, turn pages with the other hand, and welcome to the Eresian Mysteries. Okay, here we go. Discordian society. This is the sigil, the logo, the brand, reminiscent of the yin and the yang symbol, with, lots of gray area. And the line clearly delineated as a lane, which it is. In a yin and yang symbol, these lines are merely lines. Well, in most representations of yin and yang, they're merely lines. They're not lanes. This is a lane. And, if you show up for day 2 of any sort of Eastern philosophy class, what you learn is that, yes, there's the yin and the yang, the black and the white, the good and the evil, the opposites, right? The chaos and order, all of these dichotomies, all represented by the yin and the yang symbol, the night and the day, right? Any sorts of opposites are represented by the yin and the yang symbol. But like I said, if you show up for day 2 of any Eastern philosophy class, what you're going to discover is that the action is on the line, right? The action is in the area between the good and the evil, the bad, the Democrat or Republic, however you want to dichotomize the world. You know what I mean? So here it's made explicitly a lane. Meaning, this is where we spend our time, balancing the order and disorder. And I love that there's a lot of gray area. I think that's really clever. Okay. The Discordian Society symbol. This magnificent emblem pictorially symbolizes the working of the forces of the universe and what those forces are. It is called the sacred Chao. Utilizing the symbolism of the Taoist yin and yang, we have the sacred Chao divided into the Hajj and the Paj, only instead of a Paj spot, in the Hajj side, there is a pentagon to represent the Aristasque, the Aristasque principle. I see. And instead of a Hajj spot in the Pod side, there is the golden apple of discord to represent the Aristic principle. These two principles, in eternal strife against each other, bring forth life. So once, again, referring back, the apple and the pentagon. The Aristasque principle, or so the pentagon, I suppose, is essentially that everything that claims to be ordered is in fact only superficially ordered. Yes, right, like Pentagon. And imperfectly at that, yes. In other words, even the greatest orderers of all humanity, the scientists, find that every time they get some kind of good scheme going, some damn thing or another doesn't fit, and every word of the knowledge of science must be prefaced with the understanding that it might all be scrapped if the wrong evidence pops up tomorrow. All of this checks out 100%. Furthermore, every scientist today, using scientist narrowly, is spending the bulk of his time trying to figure out just what to do with all the bits of information that he already has that even now don't fit the scheme. So true. Anyway, it is all well and good because the order is not really there in the first place, only primal chaos. It is we that give birth to order imposed on chaos so that we may utilize our environment and lead a good life. That is, ordering is essentially a human thing and also, in fact, is essential to humans. But what most people do not realize is that there is another principle at work also, as well, too. The heuristic principle is essentially pure, bold discord. The antithesis of order in its unadulterated state. Let's read that sentence again. The heuristic principle is essentially pure, bold discord, the antithesis of order in its unadulterated state. You know, for a Bible, this is pure poetry, man. This principle, too, is necessary for life, for without it something or another would happen that must be terrible. But we poor humans lack the understanding so far to appreciate what that might be. But if you don't believe that this principle exists, look about you. Oh yes, discord is an inherent principle of the universe. Really, it is. Mm-hmm. I am convinced. For a more complete dissertation on the principles, see the cosmology in the incompleted holy work of Malaclips the Younger, H.C. Summa Universalia, a summation of the universe, which is probably not yet available. That's hilarious. That's hilarious. Also, for a more complete rendition of the Aristesque principles, in particular, read his myth of Ichabod, included in the same holy work but also distributed alone on occasion. That is the most we can say about things, isn't it? Included in the same holy work, but also distributed alone on occasion. The pentagon and the apple of discord were chosen to represent these principles for the following reason. We have found that one of the finest examples of superficial order resting on a solid foundation of chaos is the United States military headquarters. Ah, shots fired, shade thrown. This is hilarious. The Pentagon building, right. Furthermore, the Pentagon has 5 sides, which correlates with the law of fives, which was discovered by the great Lord Omar Khayyam Ravenhurst, HC, to be that everything happens in fives or is divisible into 5 parts. For a more complete explanation of this, read Book I, The 5 Pillars of Rubbish, in his holy work, The Honest Book of Truth. It's true. Everything is divisible in 5. I haven't read these works, but here's how I divide 1, 2, 3, and 4 into 5. It all starts with 1. And that 1 is your particular point of view. You are the one, Neo. You know, nothing exists outside of your brain and immediate surroundings. All the content of the world's histories, religions, all the content of the world's knowledge is really only contained within you, within me. We all have this subjective goggles that we call eyes and brain and a life experience. The whole of everything you are makes one. And the whole of everything you are is the whole of everything. The whole of the entire universe and beyond is all contained within your brain. This is a brain in a jar approach, right? Matrix style, simulation theory style, that kind of thing, right? Okay, so one, well, how can you divide one by five? Wait. One is, of course, never one, right? We have to then go about dividing the world into at least two. It has to be where we begin, right? Um, Dichotomize it into two halves. That is the symbol of the yin and the yang. And where we dichotomize it matters, you know. Um, they're all examples are stupid, but here's a necessarily a stupid example. You know, if you find your foundational view of the world to be from a Democrat uh, podium, let's say, then the dichotomy is Republican. The other is Republican. If you define yourself as good, then the other is evil. If you define yourself as up, then the other is down, right? But when it comes to us, what is the dichotomy worth having? And it's something like worth doing and not worth doing. That's the dichotomy. I'm doing this because I'm consider it to be worth doing at this very moment. Probably most fun I could be having right now, given my options. Hence why I'm doing it. I mean, by all means, spend all of your days and months and years meditating. That's good. Go in a cave, be alone somewhere. That's fine. But when you decide to act in this world, you'll have to decide what is worth acting upon and what isn't worth acting upon. That is the most useful, most utilitarian level of analysis that I am able to grasp at. And so one must divide the whole of existence into two. Something like worth doing and not worth doing. Once you divide it into two, you've created a dichotomy. Well, in order to be effective at managing the half that you want to manage, let's call it the good half that's worth acting upon, you have to organize that good half. And then the question is, how do human brains throughout ages organize things? And the most useful level of organization, given the narrative that I've constructed thus far, is to pull upon the Trinity. We tend to organize that which is elusive, that which cannot be organized exactly without some degree of skill to balance things. We have a tendency to place it into threes, the Trinity, Morpheus and Neo and Trinity, as well as the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, as well as Vishnu, Krishna, and what's the third? I don't know. It's the same thing uh, in many things, you know. The Trinity. So the Trinity that we take to manage the good half, we take that good half and split it into three. Let's call it the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, right? In other words, you must bring about mature fatherly energy, something that's generative, something that's powerful, um, something that's reliable, disciplined, fatherly energy, right? To a function, whatever that function may be, whatever you may be acting upon. You'll have to bring the feminine energy, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The Holy Spirit is the feminine energy. Well, that's why they call it the Holy Spirit and not feminine. We can't have women folk in, let's say, patriarchal religions. Why mince words about it, right? But Holy Spirit is that which is beyond um, discord. It's beyond definition. It's the Tao. It's the yin and the yang. It's that line that we walk. That this text has made into a lane. Um, how we balance, God only knows, right? That's the point of it. That's the Holy Spirit. That's the leap into faith kind of thing, right? Leap first and then look where you're going to land. And of course, the Son is the you, or in this case, Jesus. You know, the sacrifice that you make. You know, you sacrifice your 10-year-old to your adult. You have killed the Jesus within you, so to speak, when you gave up on your childhood dreams, perhaps. Um, so, you know, that's how we go from one brain in a jar, which is you, to two, dichotomizing what's worth doing, what's not worth doing, taking what's worth doing half, and then divvying it up into three, a Trinity, the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit. The the three energies which you must bring to your effort of acting upon the good half, we could say, right? Um, the way you manage, or more often than not, mangle those three, um, makes the elusive fourth. The elusive fourth is something that always exists. It's the back table in negotiations, right? You're negotiating with somebody. You think you're negotiating with that person. You're not negotiating with that person always. They have a back table. That back table consists of their, I don't know, boss, wife, husband, kids, dreams, you know. People have a back table, and you're never negotiating with the person in front of you. You're always negotiating with the back table. So knowing what the back table is important. So the elusive fourth, right? It's sort of your back table. You understanding your life, your dreams, your particular options before you, your pressures. All of these things. But the elusive fourth is more important beyond merely connecting us to five. Um, the elusive fourth, I like to talk about it after Trinity to indicate that there's always a fourth element, or that is to say, the hidden element, right? So if you look at the whole of religions and their tendencies to divvy things up into threes, going back as far as Sumeria and of course Egypt, etc. Um, the elusive fourth is sort of implied in the Holy Spirit, you know, because, well, that is the Tao. That is the thing that can't be defined, that can't be mentioned, the thing that we don't know how to bridge. We don't know how to get there. The getting there is the struggle of it all, right? Um, but elusive fourth is important beyond that because here we are talking about Holy Spirit. We have categorized, we have created taxonomies of trinities, right? And each such trinity, even the yin and the yang symbol, which seemingly is a very definition of a dichotomy, it is not. Like I said, it is the line that you walk. If you show up for day 2 of any Eastern philosophy, that's what you'll find. It is the line between the good and the evil, the left and the right, the whatever the case might be. But there's the thing that is not being talked about, right? If the only thing that you can conceive of is the thing that's been talked about, then you are nothing but an non-player character, NPC, right? In order for you to not become an NPC or not be NPC, both are correct. You have to come up with your own value system, as Nietzsche pointed. So, brain in a jar divides the world into 2 halves. The half that's worth doing is managed by categorizing it into 3 sections. The Trinity, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. Of course, that original brain in the jar is the one that has to act upon the whole thing. That brain in the jar is your back table. So how you manage or mangle your the half that's worth acting upon is an ongoing struggle. It is the bridge between the good and the bad that we must bridge. And, in this dichotomy, all the bad outcomes are the ones that you have mangled, that you haven't managed properly. All the good outcomes are the one that you did manage properly. By summoning the powers of Trinity and by engaging that brain in a jar fully as your back table. And thus, a singular you becomes 5. And that is how 5 is divisible by 1, 2, 3, and 4. This is a spiritual math, if you need a label. You don't bother looking for its validity. I made it up. You're the only one that can figure out if what I just said is valid or not. Okay. So the truth is 5, but we have only one name for it. If you must know, that particular apostle was Krishna Argumentium. On the other half, the golden apple of discord was chosen to symbolize the heuristic principle and refers to the only extant myth of the Greek goddess of strife and discord, Eris. That myth follows shortly. The official colors of the Discordian society are blue, red, green, chartreuse, puce, heliotrope, tutti frutti green, vermilion, navy black, and yellow. However, we usually render the emblem as silver bordered with the golden pentagon and apple, all on a black or darkened background because that way it is sort of pretty. A note about rendering the pentagon. This symbol is included in many of the emblems of the various subdivisions and in all cases, including the DS emblem itself. It should be drawn in a particular position. You see, inherent in every pentagon is a pentagram made from drawing a line from each point to every other point, which is a very old mystical symbol. A strange thing about the pentagram is that it could be used for mystifying good or evil. In white magic, it was used with 1 point ascending and 2 points descending. And when used for black magic, then it had 2 points up and 1 down. I did not know that. That's awesome. Well, we don't want to appear biased, so we always render 1 point to the left and 2 points to... Oh, Jesus. I must call you back. I know. No, probably in a couple hours. Yeah, bye. Okay. Where were we? Render 1 point to the left and 2 points to the right, which results in 1.5 points up and 1.5 points down, and everybody's happy, particularly Eris. That's funny. That is hilarious. What we know about Eris? Disgustingly little. However, we do know that she was worshipped by the ancient Greeks as the goddess of strife and discord, and that the Romans appropriated her and renamed her Discordia. Okay, yeah, okay. So yes, both Greek and Roman. The Romans seem to be the only ones who left a likeness of her for posterity. She was presented as a grotesque woman with a pale and ghastly look, her eyes afire, her garment ripped and torn, and as having a concealed dagger hidden in her bosom. Some Discordians of today question the validity of this picture, but that's what the Romans said. Her genealogy is amazingly balled up, which is me so appropriate to Aries that it makes one shudder. Okay, it's probably a typo. She's the daughter of either Zeus and Hera and the twin of Ares, or B, of Nyx. Now, Nyx was the daughter of Chaos and the goddess of night. She and her brother, Erebus, how's this for a scandal, beget Hypnus, sleep, Thanatos, death, Moros, doom, and Ser, fate, dreams, Momus, mockery, blame, Oises, misery, Oises. The three fates, Lachesis, Atropos, Clotho. Oh, that's cool. The Legends of Tomorrow, Lachesis, Atropos of Clotho. That's funny. Nemesis, deceit, friendship, old age, and strife, Eris. Zeus was scared to death of her. Oh, scared of death of her. At least it seems that she may be the daughter of chaos, to quote from the New Century Classical Handbook. In Greek mythology, chaos is the original formless state of the universe, or the deity presiding over it. Perhaps no other myth exhibits quite so much confusion and variety as are found in the concepts of chaos. The one thing common to all varieties was the idea of infinite space in which matter existed without form and in complete darkness. To some of the ancient poets, this was chaos, and alone existed, but others said that Earth and Eros, not to be confused with Eris, were coeval with chaos. In some cosmogonies, the first of all things was Chronos, time, from whom proceeded chaos and ether, light, or upper air. But in other formulation, Chaos was the deity presiding over the formless mass with his wife Nyx, night. Their son Erebus, darkness, slew or dethroned Chaos, ho another scandal, and married his mother. From this union came Ether and Hemera, day, who with the aid of their son Eros, love, created Pontus, sea, and Gaia, earth. But in other accounts, Gaia proceeded directly from Chaos and was the mother of Eros, as well as of Tartarus, the netherworld. And that is who Eris is related to. But all this garbage aside, we have one nice little myth about her. The myth of the apple of discord. It seems that Zeus was throwing a wedding banquet for Peleus and Thetis, and quite logically didn't want to invite Ares because he wanted it to go well. Ha! Oh, that's funny. So funny. So everyone got invited, but poor Eris. We call this the doctrine of the original snub. And she got quite angry about it. Kind of like Maleficent Disney. Disney is all... I don't understand how Disney is not destroyed by copyright claims. They stole everything. Her cunning little mind clicking away madly, she took an apple of pure god gold and inscribed upon it Callisti, to the prettiest one, and rolled it into the banquet hall. Hence the presence of the Callisti apple in the logo earlier, being one of the halves. The rest of the first edition version of the myth of the apple of discord is missing. Here, substituted is the rest of the myth from the fourth edition. Oh, that's so good. I'm so glad they did that. She then left it to be alone and joyously partake of a hot dog. Now, three of the invited goddesses, Athena, Hera, and Aphrodite, each immediately claimed it to belong to herself because of the inscription, and they started fighting. And they started throwing punch all over the place and everything. Finally, Zeus calmed things down and declared that an arbitrator must be selected, which was a reasonable suggestion. And all agreed. He sent them to a shepherd of Troy, whose name was Paris, because his mother had had a lot of gall and had married a Frenchman. But each of the sneaky goddesses try to outwit the others by going early and offering a bribe to Paris. I remember this from like fifth grade history or something. Athena offered him heroic war victories. Hera offered him great wealth, and Aphrodite offered him the most beautiful woman on earth. Being a healthy young Trojan lad, Paris promptly accepted Aphrodite's bribe, and she got the apple, and he got screwed. As she had promised, she maneuvered earthly happenings so that Paris could have Helen, the Helen then living with her husband, Menelaus, king of Sparta anyway. Everyone knows that the Trojan War followed when Sparta demanded their queen back, and that the Trojan War is said to be the first war among men. I may have heard that before, but it really bears repeating. The Trojan War is considered the first war among men. That's interesting. Obviously, that's both true and not true, right? It's sort of first big war as far back as our history can reach, but our history doesn't reach very far. You know, when you think about it, Jesus was only 2,000 years ago. It's not that long ago. If we take conservative scientific estimates, human species, in its present form, has existed for at least 200,000 years. 200,000 versus 2,000. We could have had 100 histories of the same length as ours become created and get destroyed 100 times over in the last 200,000 years, if we take our history as a kind of a standard, let's say. And I'm not even sure that's true, right? It's like all we can know for sure, brain in a jar again, is that like reality as such has existed for as long as you've been alive. What happens before or after? You have no fucking idea. As she had promised, she maneuvered earthly. Okay, so we read that. And so we suffer because of the original snub. And so a Discordian is to partake of no hot dog buns. Do you believe that? There's a historic disagreement concerning whether this apple was of metallic gold or Acapulco. That's funny. Actually, there were 5 goddesses, but the Greeks did not know the law of fives. That's funny. The Grecian movement in general. The Arisian movement is defined as of or in regard to Eris, and 2 in reference to the principle of discord. Specifically, the Arisian movement is dedicated to acknowledging Eris as the universal deity, to understanding the eristic principle and the eristesque principle, and their interrelationship, to understanding the significance of life and its relation to truth, to propagating Arisian religion and Arisian theology, and to just plain gaining wisdom. The following is a breakdown of the disorganization of the Arisian movement. The House of the Apostles of Eris. Let's see. 3. Okay, so there's 3. Okay. The Administry and the Legion of Dynamic Discord. Okay, so the House of the Apostles of Eris has 5, let's call them branches. The Golden Apple Corps, holders of the Sacred Chow, the office of high priesthood, the compiler of truth, esoteric. 4 is left blank, and the episcoposis. So this is obviously based on Urantia. Um, I believe I've heard an interview with one of the, I believe, two men who created the religion and the text that we are reading right now. They did it in a bowling alley. And I believe Urantia was a subject during the creation process. This being a kind of a bit of a mockery, of course. Though, if you're familiar with my approach to Urantia, I it is the religion that I am deeply involved in. It is my religion of choice. It is the religion that I believe in, and part of that belief is that the whole of Urantia is, in fact, the longest practical joke ever told. So, none of this is to be taken very seriously. The Administry has a Department of Eurasian Archives, Department of Symbols, Emblems, Certifications, and such, Department of the Secretariat, the Department of Projects, and Department of Miscellaneous. Department of Projects is further subdivided into project concerning our affairs with Switzerland, project concerning the University of Discordia. And finally, the Legion of Dynamic Discord, disciplines of Eris, Evangelist, Legionnaires, also subdivided as the Eurasian Orthodox, French Heretics, and Persuaded Protestants, the Non-Secretarians. I think sort of an overarching lesson for this is that we really should roll our projects into this kind of a matrix. So what do I mean by that? So you should have your life laid out in 3 categories with like 5 subcategories in each. Just a suggestion. We'll go with like 4 categories and 3 subcategories. Be my guest. You know what I mean? It has to be meaningful to you. But the Trinity here is a good place to start. You want to limit yourself, really force yourself to fit the structure, right? In order to organize your brain and your activities, right? And then within that 3 category structure, you can have 5 subcategories, and one of those subcategories could be Department of Projects. And one of the projects could be project concerning my own affairs for making a living. You know what I mean? That's a good way to sort of have an overview of your life and put proper things in proper context. Just a suggestion. The House of the Apostles of Eris. The house, as we lovingly call it, is the aristocracy of the Erisian movement. Any member of the house is called the episkopos, which is a real honest-to-goodness Greek word that means overseer, and from which we derive good words like epistle and bad words like Episcopalian. Episcopalian, that's funny. And all of the episcoposes are aristocrats, which is the same thing. Now, this is not to say that an episcopos cannot be something else in the house also. He can, if that something just happens to be a high priest or a compiler of truth esoteric. In fact, it is quite likely that he will be a compiler of truth esoteric, because that is probably how he became an episcopos in the first place, but more on that later. well, we're sort of trapped in an Ouroboros um, version of what this paragraph just described. Ouroboros version of what this paragraph described. The fact that the subdivisions of the house are numbered should not lead one to believe that it is a hierarchy, because that is not the case. With the grand exception of the golden apple corpse, which is in the attic, no episcopos has any authority over any other episcopos, with some exception as mentioned. All are aristocrats, but then some episcopos do hold a higher place, but not because he's an episcopos, but because he's something else too. And if that something else is the head of something, right? For instance, a high priest is the head of all those that follow his sect, be they legionnaires or episcopos, but he has no authority over just any old body. Perhaps this will become clearer as we go along. Note 4. The Golden Apple Corpse. This is the super supreme absolute dictatorial tip-top of the Arisian movement. It has the last word and is answerable only to Eris herself. It holds a position somewhat similar to the pardoned reference papacy in the heathen Christianity of the Catholic variety. Ha! I love that. Heathen Christianity. Yeah, totally. Mainstream is run by the lunatic fringe that controls media, economics, and politics. So basically, your entire perception of reality. And of course, papacy is a powerful organ in the body that makes up our whole of reality. Now, don't get angry. It's not as bad as all that. First, remember that the episcopos is pretty much his own boss. He was ascended into the house because the holders of the sacred chow felt that they could trust his discretion. Hence, the only time that the Golden Apple Corpse would ever exert its supreme authority would be in case of disputes, or in cases where a final authority is necessary. Secondly, the fact that the corpse is closed to new members, I guess I forgot to mention that, does not in any way belittle other episcopos. The corpse is for the founders of Discordianism, and just because you didn't happen to think of the idea first, it doesn't necessarily imply that you are not as good as Discordian as the holders of the chow, even though it is probably true. And thirdly, the two founders are going to leave this corporeal world someday and will have to be replaced anyway. A member of the Golden Apple Corpse is called a holder of the sacred chow, and that is what that title, HC, after the founders' names means, holder of the sacred chow. Being two founders, there are two holders of the sacred chow, namely Lord Omar Khayyam Ravenhurst and Malaclips the Younger. They and only they may put HC after their names. The office of High Priesthood. So I would recommend everyone start putting HC after their names in all contexts. And start calling themselves the holder of the sacred chow, because that is the whole point of this religion. Chaos. The office of High Priesthood. Not long after the Discordian Society was founded, there happens to be a schism. Not great religion is without schism. No great religion is without schism. It seems that Malaclips the Younger, while under inspiration, realized that the Greeks did not understand the principle of discord very well at all, and that Eris should not be taken quite as literally as had been done. And for about 5 years, Malaclips the Younger went through a period of rebellion and was heard making such comment as, down with Eris and screw God, and other terrible things which made Lord Omar very angry. Passing through his rebellious phase, Malaclypse asked Lord Omar just what they should do, for Lord Omar's inspirations told him that Eris was to be taken literally, or nearly so anyway. Well, they went into conference and at the bowling alley where Eris first presented herself to them, and together they talked things over with Eris. You probably thought I was joking when I said that it was two of them making this shit up in a bowling alley, right? No, it was two of them making this shit up in a bowling alley. After much lengthy contemplation, discussion, meditation, and consideration, they concluded that it's perfectly within the Discordian philosophy to have sex. I mean sects. And each appointed the other as El High Priest of his particular interpretation. Low High Priest, that's funny. The Eresian orthodoxy is the interpretation of Lord Omar and is more or less loyal to the ancient understanding of Eris, and feels that she is real live goddess, sort of. Any member of this sect should never take her name in vain, or so much as suggest that another god or goddess comes anywhere near her. The heretic fringe and Protestant persuasion is the interpretation of Malaclypse the Younger. He feels that she is not a real live goddess, but if there was one, it would be she, being a symbolic manifestation of the principle, which is what he calls her. She does not, he argues, always represent the appropriate specific, which means that sometimes a French heretic and persuaded Protestant can say, "Hail Bacchus," or "Hail Saint Bocanon," or "Hail me," or something, if he feels that Eris is not the appropriate symbol and under the circumstances at the moment. The liberal interpretations may take her name in vain on occasion, but do so sparingly, with kindness, and not in the presence of an orthodox Eresian. Ha 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 ha. That's cool. At the time that this is being written, there are the only two sects and the only two high priests. However, there's one way to become a high priest yourself, but that is a secret. I already told you what it is. And never let out of the office. The reason that is a secret is this: the high priests feel that being a high priest and having followers is quite a responsibility, and should not be available to just anyone. So if a person understands Discordianism to the degree in which it is apparent to him, without being told, he can become a high priest, if he wants to. Then he understands it well enough to qualify. So don't ask a high priest how he became one, because he cannot tell you, damn it. Incidentally, this is the only secret that is to be found in the Eresian mysteries. The reason that we are esoteric is because nobody ever heard of us. That's funny. So I think I gave away the farm then. Sorry, not sorry? The compiles of truth, esoteric. This is just what it says it is, compiled truth, but this is not to be confused with the compiles of truth lay. Even though both are truth and both are compiled. The difference is that when an episcopos compiles truth, it is done in specific regard to the Eresian movement, which of course cannot be done by a layman who knows nothing about Discordianism. Though he may intuitively understand much of Discordian wisdom, which is why it is truth that he compiled and not just any other old thing. Okay. This is an academic distinction and gives one no authority or anything. If an episcopos wishes, he may call himself compiler of truth esoteric, if he has compiled truth, that is. But usually this is not done. The epistolary is properly a part of the Aresian archives, but each epistle itself is a compiled truth, so it is properly part of this section too. More on the epistolary, maybe, when we get to the administry. Holy works are the best examples of compiled truths. A holy work is work done on, about, or in the name of Eris. And Discordianism. The Principia Discordia, which you are now reading, is a holy work, as is the Honest Book of Truth, the major work of Malaclep's Lord Omar, and Summa Universia, the major work of Malaclep's the Younger, and all of the junk that each Discordian gets in his initiation pocket, and like stuff. Most of the episcopos will have done some sort of holy work by the time that they enter the house. See next page. The 5 apostles, saints, and like personages. The 5 apostles of Eris are Controvite, Confusium, Krishna Argumentium, Discordiu, one the Aristantiealist, Aristotle, and Malaclep's the Elder. If you wish to know more about the 5 apostles, their history and importance, read Book 2 of the Honest Book of Truth, which is entitled The Gospel According to Omar. You will find it very enlightening if you can find it at all. Saints. At the time that this is being written, there are 3 saints. Saint Bokonon, sainted for his profound understanding of the function of religion. Saint Quixote, I guess, sainted for his divinely inspired approach to life, and Saint Eucerian, sainted as an example of what an authentic man is like. It is interesting to note that our saints are fictional, not factual, but that is all right. Saint Bokonon demonstrated that it certainly is all right. Saint Bokonon, right? Understanding of the religion, function of it. If you wish to know more about our saints, read respectfully The Cat's Cradle, Kurt Vonnegut, Don Quixote, Carvates, and Catch-22, Joseph Heller. As much saints come into being, all Discordians will be notified. Oh, that's funny. So these are the people whose innermost thoughts you can glean by reading the books which created these personalities in the first place. That's very cool. Like parsonages, just thought we would throw this in. It has become a tradition of the compilers of truth, esoteric, to dedicate their holy works to she for whom the apple of discord was meant. Anything appropriate to the following would do: to the pretty one, for the fairest, in honor of the prettiest, or simply Callisti. Well, if that doesn't call for a song or something like that. Khaleesi is probably where Game of Thrones writer got Khaleesi from, right? Probably got it from this book. Being wildly well read and all. The episcoposes. Everything has been pretty much been stated about the members in general of the house, except how to become one. If a legionnaire wishes ascendance into the house, he must first prove that he has a profound understanding of Discordianism. This is really necessary, for an episcopos, unlike a legionnaire, can do just about anything he wishes in the name of the DS. The only thing he cannot do is override the Golden Apple Corpse, so present yourself for examination before the Golden Apple Corpse, and if it feels that your Aresian judgment can be trusted almost unconditionally, then you will be ascended. The easiest way to present yourself for examination is to write a holy work, such that you feel it demonstrates your ability to be an episcopos and present it to the corpse, actually. This way is preferred. We like holy works. Ascended into the house can be authorized only by the corpse. I will submit this video as my submission, actually. One privilege that an episcopos has is that of giving himself titles such as Bulgus or of Limbo and Protector of Switzerland, Lord Omar's title, or Omnibenevolent Polyfather or Virginity in Gold, Malaclips the Younger's title. I hate to go against the elders of the order already, being unadmitted and all. But a high priest, though, i.e., C. Robert Anton Wilson, take that. I can name myself on whatever I want, whenever I want. So, take that. Like your sacred name, your sacred title is a very personal and individual thing and should be chosen with care. Furthermore, you can also head departments of the administry and title himself appropriately, and he can officially usher in new legionnaire converts and ascend legionnaires to disciplehood and everything. As an aristocrat in the house of the apostles of Eris and Episcopos, should carry his honor with the appropriate dignity. The administry. As its name indicates, this handles the administration functions necessary for the propagation of Discordianism. It is the responsibility of the house and is headed by episcoposes. It has 5 subdivisions. Each head of which is called the keeper of ... For example, of Eurasian archives, of symbols, emblems, certificates, and such, etc. Or the keeper of the sacred stage. My subdivision, the keeper of the sacred stage. Except the secretariat, who is called the secretariat, but since we don't have one, it doesn't make any difference anyway. Each subdivision may have sub-subdivisions, and they can have their sub-subdivisions ad infinitum. Just keep track of what you're doing and enjoy yourself. Turtles all the way down. The department of the Eurasian archives. Lord Omar, as keeper of the Eurasian archives, has in his possession the epistolary and all the official Discordian records, including copies of holy works. The epistolary is a goodie that is composed of copies of all the inspired letters that have passed between the holders of the sacred chow. Or if you like, pass between the chow's legs. Needless to say, these documents will someday be Eurasian relics and should bring a good price. That's so hilarious. These guys are so funny. The Polyfather also has much of this in his own archives, which is officially called the Eurasian Archives, the so-called subdiv. Anyone who wishes may compile all of the Discordian material that they can get their hands on and call it unofficial Eresian archives, but it is not recommended because it is a lot of trouble. Anything that you wish to have officially recorded in the archives, please make duplicate copies and send one to United States Main Temple, Lord Omar Kmayan Ravenhurst, H.C. Carey Thornley. That's the guy, his secular name, right? Carey Thornley is the fella that I've seen an interview of. And that's a real address right there. So another real address, Gregory Hill. Right. Cool. Department of Symbols, Emblems, Certificates, and such. Malaclips, the younger, H.C. As keeper of all this, personally renders each hand-drawn certificate or emblem or such all by himself. He then has the master duplicate offset Xerox or something and present it to whoever is going to get it. Due to the expense involved in this operation, this is one of the main areas in which the treasury is emptied. If you have any questions about the use of certificates or what symbol is appropriate to what, or anything at all pertaining to this, just ask the keeper, and if he doesn't have an answer ready, he has the authority to make up an answer to fit the problem. All the symbols and things so far were originally designed by him. The official Discordian document numbering system. The keeper of symbols, emblems, certificates, and such feels that no organization should be without a system for numbering its official releases. So here is ours. It is composed of 3 sets of numbers, each separated by a dash. The first represents the movement appropriate to the document, the second the subdivisions, and the third is the date. Example 1-2-4:11:64. It would mean that it is Eresian, that it pertains to the Legion of Dynamic Discord, and that it is documented on April 11th, 1964. What to do with subdivisions? In the above example, there would be no way to differentiate between a Legionnaire's document and disciple's document, so a disciple's documents would be 2.1, whereas the Legionnaires would be 2.2. And when there are several more subcategories, just add a period and another number. This is ridiculous. And hilarious. This is just, it's 70 pages, right? So it's like you think they wouldn't concern themselves with the bureaucracy of it all. But what is religion if it's not bureaucracy? To find the appropriate numbers for the categories, check your table of disorganization, which should have everything numbered for you officially Discordian document, blah, blah, blah. Okay, bad dates. Any given thing is liable to be revised without notice at any given time, so if you have conflicting information, check to see which is the latest and follow it. Anything that is duplicated from this office will have an official document number with the date. The reason that the date is colons and not slashes between the numbers is to make it not look like a date, which we thought would be nice. Department of Projects. Oh yes, we have projects. One of them is the University of Discordian, which is still in the planning stage. When completed, though, it will have a whole catalog full of courses with no place to teach them, and will offer a Widower of Arts degree to all Discordian interests. That's funny. Another project is Switzerland. It seems that Lord Omar has discovered that there is a secret plot to overthrow Switzerland, in which 11 small countries of Europe will confiscate the gold in the Swiss banks. Being a good-natured fellow at heart, Lord Omar has offered the Discordian Society treasury for the purpose of Switzerland to hide their gold in for safekeeping. The consulate has not yet answered our offer and our information about the plot, but we are sure they will take us up on it. For more information about this, read Book 1 of the Honest Book of Truth, the Fourth Pillar Plan. You know, um, creating a pseudo religion, um, and then asking foreign government to dance with you in some way, even if it's conspiratorial, that just seems so irreverent. That's the very definition of irreverent. And I just appreciate the hell out of it. And we have a project for getting new members, and we plan to keep accumulating projects as we go along. You need not be an episcopos to help on or have your own project. Anyone interested may participate. In fact, participation in a project is one way for a legionnaire to be ascended to a disciple. Department of the Miscellaneous is just what it says it is. Notes to Principia Discordia. Actually, there are 5 movements, but 2 of them are remaining hidden and we cannot find them. It seems that Discordiu frequently succumbed to spells wherein he could only speak a divine tongue of some sort that no one could understand but himself. We are sorry that we have no translation of this most apt comment. Whatever the hell that is. Okay. Oh. Okay. So here we go. Oh, appendix. Being collection of rare and impossible to find Discordian rescued from limbo by those who shall know better, and presented here by a secret sect of artists, writers, general loonies, and heirs fanciers, who exist at this current time for some reason on planet Earth of all places. Be it known that has been righteously ordained as a priest of the Perithio Animentia by Eris Esoteric and thusly entrusted with all holy duties and divine privileges of this notice. In the name of the goddess Eris, glory of the sacred Chow, under the patron of apostle the elder Malaclips, by the omnibenevolent father of virginity in gold Malaclips the younger, hail Eris, on day of the season of the year of Our Lady, the golden apple corpse, the Discordian Society. Right, so that's the certificate that you can print out, I suppose, and fill out for yourself. Congratulations. And this is right. More of that. What must you do to save us? To aid us in our divine appointment, we have instituted a system of involuntary induction, or draft, or drought, or whereby we enable others to serve her cause irregardless, not a word, of whatever personal desires they may have on the matter. Greetings, Grace. You are now a member of the Legion of Dynamic Discord, or if you prefer the Chaos Corps, or if you again prefer Corpse. And your specific chosen duty is the humble, proud task of serving as benevolent Alpine troubleshooter, or if you prefer shooteress, or bats. I hereby grant you full authorization to shoot any Alpine trouble and ask you to fully inform yourself at once about all details of this Swiss crisis. As you doubtless know, not long ago I discovered that the sinister Defamation League, for plotting to get 11 small nations together and rob all the banks in Switzerland, commando style, I do not know much about the sinister leader of this plot to knock off Switzerland, except that his followers call him the Anonymous One, and that one of the small nations involved is the Sovereign Military Order of Malta, and that another might be Luxembourg or perhaps Monaco. My many duties as bull goose of this disorganization have kept me from finding out more. Our objective is to get the Swiss to be cognizant of the peril and entrust us with their gold until the plot is foiled by our knights of the five-sided temple or somebody. If we could convince them of our trustworthiness by getting hold of an ICBM intercontinental ballistic missile. That is one idea. I leave it up to you to probe the situation and come up with some positive action steps in renegotiating the matter. Both the Ply Padre of Virginity in Gold and I will do whatever we can to help. Drop us your problems. And they provide an address. Same one as before. Enunciating. The Aristocrat Gallery of Dischrodemic Art, a division of the Bureau of the Arisian Archives and the Liberty of the Epistolary. In answer to many requests for a service of this kind, the Discordian Society will begin to offer a selected series of the finest postcard-sized illustrations in full color, which belong to the Dischrodemic School of Art, a division of the University of Discordia, and which will be available from the office of the Bull Goose at the special price of 10 cents each. These illustrative works of happenstance are not Discordian or ideological in the ordinary sense of the term. They are, however, discordemic and idiotic. They represent the combined efforts of an unbefuddled postcard printer and a brainless printing press. They are works of pure intuition and blind luck, qualified as the best and pure manifestation of the mystical orgasm of Eris, impossible for this conscious Discordian to create. None of these are reproductions. They are all actual mistakes in their original form, with nothing added to adulterate to their simple ugliness. Discordemic, a term compound from the following words: discord and Cro-Magnon, goddamn, and dynamic. Discro... Damn. Discrodemic. That's funny. Discrodemic. Discord, Cro-Magnon, goddamn, and dynamic. So it's caveman-like. It's chaos at its core. Primitive, caveman-like id, Freud might say. Goddamn is probably should be followed by an exclamation, because it's perhaps what the creator exclaims once. It's how the creator knows the piece is done, when you can say goddamn, as in that's good, and dynamic, as in ephemeral, brief, momentary. The gallery will issue bulletins from time to time listing the titles of all available originals and how many of each titles are available. They will be sold on a first-come, first-served basis. Substitutions will be made for late orders. All proceeds from this endeavor will go to the University of Discordia Foundation's Fund for the Bray Ice Foundation, the official Discordian postcard company, formally at this address hereby announces its bankruptcy. Every bats of our society should have a private collection of these exquisite, dirt cheap masterpieces. You can meditate the whole day through. When you have a plastic guru, place him in the corner of your pad, plug him in and hold your hat. He'll tell you just where it's at, with the best advice you will have ever had. Flashing strobe third eye, your choice of the following sermons for swingers, each recorded by a real Rishi or Roshi, mono or stereo. Platitudes to ponder, sex is dirty, dope and the devil, obey authority. Special mantra tape. Huh. Okay. This is Discordian Society. Anyone caught practicing book gets a Hukonon. Okay, so announcement. Fashion of privacy, Catholic heretics. Okay. Is that it? Discordian according to Mount the Younger. Being subject to change without notice. Okay. To all heretic fringe and Protestants from your high priest, subject a more or less rundown of the DS and a makeshift explanation of the enclosed TD. To be a member of the Discordian Society, one must exhibit that he, she, or it is one of the following: a person of profound enlightenment or interest in Discordianism as a philosophical, religious approach to life. You can then remove profound enlightenment. All you need is interest. A person who is a manifestation of or lives in terms of the principles of discord, the heuristic principle. Or C, a person who is manifestation of our lives in terms of the principle of superficial order lying on a solid foundation of chaos. Non-Discordian, most people are simply a mixture of the two, refuse to acknowledge it, do not possess divine degree of either. Of either. Okay. So I've decided not to submit this. Well, maybe the third one's charm. Maybe I'll change my mind again. But now I'm thinking I don't want to submit this for any sort of for any submission. Actually, I want you to submit it because that would be more closer to the spirit of chaos. I didn't intend to submit it when I began reading this. I didn't even know it was an option. I'm not sure that I care that it is an option. Not that I do know. Frankly, the prospect of finding the info bores me. So, if you want to do it, go do it. Probably better that way for me anyways, in more ways than one. Any person who fits the definition of a Discordian is a Discordian and belongs to the society whether he likes it or not. And whether he knows it or not, there's some sort of classification he will fall into regardless. Right. That's true of all religions, isn't it? Right? It's us and them. The Eurasian movement is the enlightened, understanding, esoteric branch of the DS and has three divisions. Two are active and one is administrative. Of the active, the Legion of Dynamic Discord represents the bulk of the religious fold and is under the authority of the aristocracy, the House of the Apostles of Eris. A person becomes an enlightened Discordian by joining the Legion as a legionnaire, and at that point he has the authority to call himself an Eurasian Discordian. Adopt a sacred name and go about spreading words of wisdom as they are released from the compiles of truth esoteric. Once a legionnaire, the fundamental step has been taken and you are in favor with Our Lady of Discord. A legionnaire becomes a disciple of Eris by doing some sort of Eurasian activity. By converting 5 others to Discordianism, he may receive a title evangelist. By giving speeches before great groups of people, he will become grand orator, etc., etc. A regular legionnaire is not responsible to a disciple, but disciplehood is certainly of higher status. So I deem myself a great orator through this video. Proof is in the pudding. The pudding is the proof. And the fact that it's YouTube, this qualifies as great groups of people. Not that great groups of people have heard me thus far, but why is time a factor in this? Mere fact that it's available and that the future is infinite and that the digital footprint will remain infinitely available as long as there's electricity and people, then there's no doubt in my mind that this will be eventually be heard by and seen by millions of people, which will be a small number considering the amount of time it has passed, perhaps millions of years. The house of the apostles of Eris, as the elite of the air hierarchy, is composed of episcopos, aristocrats, and episcopos has authority over the legion, but not over other episcopos, unless he's a high priest, in which case he has authority over his followers, be their legionnaires, disciples, or episcopos. In all matters pertaining to his sect, the Golden Apple Corps, keepers of the sacred Shao, has absolute authority over everything, but in general will not overrule an episcopos, for an episcopos becomes an episcopos because the corpse has faith in his discretion. The compilers of truth esoteric is the creative branch. One becomes a compiler by authoring a holy work of some sort or writing Eresian words of wisdom. Any member of the house is an episcopos, but an episcopos may also be a keeper of the sacred Shao if he happens to be one of the two founders of the DS, a high priest if he happens to have the sufficient understanding of the Eresian mysteries to be able to guess on his own how he may become a high priest, which is the only secret to be found in the DS, or a compiler of truth, esoteric, if he compiles truths. The fourth section of the house, the five saints and like personages, close to episcoposis. The five apostles are Confusium, Krishnu, Argumentaba, Frere Jacques, Discordet, Controvite almost made it, but got scrounged out. For more information on the apostles, see book 2. Okay, is there anything? Okay. The heuristic movement refers to Discordians that are not enlightened but manifest one of the principles, specifically the principle of discord. An avatar is an individual who is 99 and 11/25% pure chaos. Such a person is an incarnation of Eris herself, and though he leads a frustrated life on this earth, he is of divine status in essence. Avatars, wholehearted avatars, that is, are very few and very precious. To date, we have discovered only one, the Prince of Dynamic Discord, Chaos Incarnate, efficacious, paradox, concern, our eristic avatar, Corporeal Rius, the living one. He lives in LA, works for the post office, and is a graduate of the same college that belched out to Richard Nixon. A compiler truth lay is like an esoteric compiler, except that he has never heard of Discordianism and compiles truths intuitively. Two contemporary examples are Joseph Heller, Catch-22, and Kurt Vonnegut, Cat's Cradle. Two classic examples are Carventus, Don Quixote, and Lewis Carroll, all sorts of stuff. If these would become Eresians, in fact, Heller and Vonnegut are going to be contacted very soon. The Aristasket movement refers to unenlightened Discordians that manifest the other principle, the principle of superficial order resting in a solid foundation of chaos. Concerning the others of Eris, the knights are the bureaucrats and militarists of the world. Ichabod College is for those who have been exposed to the Discordian society but don't understand it, all of whom flunk out. The Defamation League underground is for the rebel rousers, anarchists, bomb throwers, assassins, and such. Local hashtag 666 is for doom prophets in general. There has been no doom prophet since Malaclips the Elder, who has known what he was doing. In the Baal movement is for Discordians that went out. In general, Aristoqueans think that they are anti-Discord and that they are promoting order, but we know better and quietly draft them into the society. Okay, there's been this is all formalities. Hold every a note from Lord. Lately, there's been some delightful confusion within the society about the TD and DT. in order to clear this up and make way for fresh chaos, which is how we rationalize this sort of operation. I should like to now timidly propose some basic guidelines in the public interest for the general welfare of our society. That the keepers, or if you prefer holders of the chow, and only they, be permitted to issue TDs and DTs. That TDs represent the physical, outward manifestation of the society, which is to be called, when differentiation is necessary, the Discordian society proper, the DS. The DTs, to be understood to represent the mystical, inner state of the society, which is called the Discordian society improper. That only Malaclips the Younger be authorized to issue TDs, and only Lord Ravenhurst be permitted to issue DTs. That the table with the latest date in each case wins, and that for numbering documents in TDs and DTs precede the number, whichever is appropriate to the mood of he who numbers documents. All tables, like all else, will of course be subject to change. In conclusion, I wish to stress that the above ground rules are nothing more than suggestions from the office of the Bulgus. Any Discordian disobeying them will be excommunicating and buried alive. Confusion. What is this? Okay. On behalf of Eris, Discordian Society presents an outline guide of the hierarchy of arguments to use on potential converts for the benefit of our disorganization men in the field. That's funny. Or if you prefer pasture. The societal approach should always be used to open the conversation with the victim. That is what asking questions to start an argument is called. You approach the victim and simply ask, did you know the god is a female and that her name is Eris? Goddess of discord. If the victim says yes, then he's either lying or you've picked a fellow Discordian. Idiot. If he doesn't, then proceed to the blind assertion. This is where you say, well, she's a woman and her name is Eris. Now see if the victim appears to be convinced. If not, proceed to the faith bid. But you must have faith. Faith is wonderful, etc. I feel sorry for you if you don't have faith, and then add the argument by fear. Do you know what happens to those who don't believe in Goddess? If the victim says no, don't tell him whatever it is you think happens to unbelievers. Just shake your head sadly and go to the first cause ploy, wherein you point to all the chaos around you and ask, well, who do you think make all this then? Wise guys? He says nobody, just impersonal forces to go on to the argument by semantic gymnastics, wherein you say that he's right and that those impersonal forces are a female and that her name is Eris. If he still objects to your objection while present, then go to figurative symbolism will dodge, wherein you explain that all sophisticated people know that Eris is just a figurative symbol for discord, but that the Discordian religion is a magnificent work of art, portrait of chaos, so to speak. If Nix, quietly draft him into Ichabod College, where he may flunk to his heart's stupid content. In the name of Our Lady of Discord, by the hand of Lord Omar Bulgus. All right. What the philosophical function of the Discordian society is. For centuries, men have probed the secrets of nature to discover and explain the laws of the universe, to find out the shape and source of order. Today, that stretch is ending. It used to be the function of religion to provide explanations for the order of things which science discovered but was unable to explain. Today, that function is vestigial. I have to go pee. Hang on. So interested have men been with order throughout history that they left another field entirely neglected: disorder. Oh man. Wow. Wow. That is a powerful sentence. They should have opened up with that one. So interested have men been with order throughout history that they left another field entirely neglected: disorder. Science is unable to explain, for example, why today's world goes right on ignoring science, paying more tribute to superstition, totalitarianism, and war. Why are the secrets of the atom used to promote chaos among men? Why are the most generous motives of men played upon to produce slavery? Why do otherwise sane people attend church on Sunday? The purpose of the Discordian Society is to provide false, comforting answers to questions of this sort, to give mystical reasons for the disorder around us, to promote unworkable principles of discord. In short, to provide the world with a workshop for the insane, thus keeping them out of mischief as presidents, ambassadors, priests, ministers, and other dictators. Ha! I wish it worked that way. Oh my God, I wish it worked that way. It doesn't. It can't. Such a small percentage of men become men who are in position of power. I don't know what the percentage of female humans occupies positions of power, and how would you go about discerning that number, right? As opposed to men, right? Um, let's say it's, I don't know. It really depends on who's financing the study, doesn't it? Um, I don't know. Let's say it's like 15% of positions in power, and let's for a moment neglect the fact that we haven't defined what it means to be in a position of power. Well, let's just throw some wild accusations out there, right? Let's say that of all the positions of power, 15% of those is occupied by female human. So a lot less than 50%, right? And so the feminists want to balance that out. Fair enough. Fair enough. There's a number of power positions, and there's no reason why we shouldn't have broader representation other than just old white men, right? I mean, that stands to reason. Although I could argue against it too, perhaps some other time. The myth of Ichabod. There once was a huge boulder perched precariously on the edge of a cliff. For hundreds of years, this boulder was there, rocking and swaying, but always keeping its balance just perfect. One year, there happened to be severe windstorm. Severe enough severe enough it was to topple the boulder from its majestic height and dash it to the bottom of the cliff, far, far below. Needless to say, the boulder was smashed into many pieces. Where it hit, the ground was covered with a carpet of pebbles, some small, some large, but pebbles and pebbles and more pebbles for as far as you could walk in an hour. One day, after all this, a young man by the name of Ichabod happened on the area. Being a fellow of keen mind and observational powers, naturally he was quite astounded to see so many stones scattered so closely on the ground. Now, Ichabod was very much interested in the nature of things, and he spent the whole afternoon looking at pebbles and measuring the size of pebbles and feeling the weight of pebbles and just pondering about pebbles in general. He spent the night there, not wanting to lose his miraculous find, and awoke the next morning full of enthusiasm. He spent many days on his carpet of stone. Eventually, he noticed a very strange thing. There were three rather large stones on the carpet, and they had formed a triangle almost, but not quite, equilateral. He was amazed. Looking further, he found four very white stones that were arranged in a lopsided square. Then he saw that by discarding one white stone and thinking of that gray stone a foot over instead, it was a perfect square. And if you chose this stone and that one and that one and that one, you have a pentagon as large as the triangle. And here a small hexagon, and there a square partially inside the hexagon and a decagon. And two triangles interlocked in a circle, and a smaller circle within the circle, and a triangle within that which has a red stone, a gray stone, and a white stone. So this is quite profound, you guys. This is describing tetragrammaton. That's a geometrical shape that represents a god. In the Bible, the god's name is tetragrammaton. If you want to have your mind blown, you should look up Nassim Haramein, the name that will remain. Nassim Haramein, the name that will remain. He's got an 8-hour presentation that he did probably like 20 years ago. It's on YouTube. You will watch that 8-hour presentation multiple times in your life, and you should. And it gets really good at about hour 6. Or was it 5? Yeah, somewhere like that. 4 or 5 hours in, it gets like really, really cooking, man. It's like the secret of the universe and everything in it. Boom, right there. Amazing, amazing. And that's what they're describing here. They're describing the same thing. Ichabod spent many hours finding many designs that became more and more complicated as his powers of observation grew with practice. Then he began to log his designs in a large leather book, and as he counted designs and described them, the pages began to fill as the sun continued to return. He had begun his second ledger when a friend came by. His friend was a poet and also interested in the nature of things. "My friend," cried Ichabod, "come quickly. I have discovered the most wondrous thing in the universe." The poet hurried over to him, quite anxious to see what it was. Ichabod showed him the carpet of stones. But the poet only laughed and said, "It's nothing but scattered rocks." "But look," said Ichabod, "see this triangle and that square and that and that." And he proceeded to show his friend the harvest of his many days' study. When the poet saw the designs, he turned to the ledgers, and by the time he was finished with these, he too was overwhelmed. He began to write poetry about the marvelous designs, and as he wrote and contemplated, he became sure that the designs must mean something. Such order and beauty is too monumental to be senseless, and the designs were there. Ichabod had showed him that. The poet went back to the village and read his new poetry, and all who heard him went to the cliff to see firsthand the carpet of designs. And all returned to the village to spread the word. Then, as the enthusiasm grew, there developed a group of those who love beauty and nature, all of whom went to live right at the designs themselves. Together they wanted to see every design that was there. Some wrote ledger about just triangles. Others described the circles. Others concerned on red-colored stones, and they happened to be the first to see designs springing from outside the carpet. They and some others saw designs everywhere they went. How blind we have been, they said. The movement grew and grew and grew, and all who could see the designs knew that they had to have been put there by a great force. Nothing but a great force, said the philosophers, could create this immense beauty. Yes, said the one. Nothing but a god could create such a magnificent order, nothing but a god. And that was the day the god was born, and ever since then all men have known him for his infinite power, and all men have loved him for his infinite wisdom. Exempted from the treaties concerning the nature of gods and the Aristotelic movement to be found, Summa Universia, holy work of... Okay. Oh, very cool. Yeah, there we go. Right. So I told you I was a high priest. I I knew I was a pope, but I thought I was afraid I'd lose you if I said pope. You'd be like, "There's no way you're a pope," but I am pope, in fact. Um, Robert Anton Wilson made me a pope when I watched one of his videos on YouTube. And you are a pope now as well. Okay, let's see what else we got. All right. So the Discordian according to Magellan, Discordian table 2D, the Eurasian movement. Okay. Oh, okay. So this is two in one kind of thing, I guess. Yeah. Sort of, maybe? Maybe not. Okay, there's some weird shit going on soon. So let's just go through this. Are you a Discordian? Yes, indeed, you, my friend, may very well be a honest to goodness Discordian without ever even realizing it. There exists in this world and has always existed a healthy number of special people, yes, very special people who are tied often to their protests together in a philosophical propensity towards an appreciation of chaos. Mm-hmm. When these fellas conceived of this religion in 1964, they couldn't have imagined that a person such as Trump would be real for real. They couldn't possibly envision that an honorary high priest, I am sure of it, in the Discordian Society, Donald J. Trump, or should I say, real Donald J. Trump, is in fact one of the greatest chaos agents that the world has ever seen. That doesn't make him bad. It doesn't make him good. But it doesn't make him bad. I'm sure he does bad things. But you can do bad things without being an agent of chaos, you see. There are many who do bad things, and we shall categorize them in other categories, for they are not agents of chaos. Sometimes this is intuitive, sometimes overt, sometimes seemingly accidental, but always in essence, it is but the goddess Discordia Eris, presenting evidence of her divinity to this elite society as far back as we can trace. The goddess Eris was worshipped by the ancient Greeks as the deity of strife and discord. The Romans renamed her Discordia, but now she has reappeared on the theological scene once more. The Discordian society is returned. So, you may superficially reject the premise upon which these paragraphs revolve. You may say to yourself, what is this talk of spirit and essence? Goddess Discordia, Eris Discordia, presumably stepping into you like Agent Smith steps into NPCs in the Matrix to wear you as a suit, as it were. For a while. And then she lets you go and goes and inhabits somebody else, perhaps Trump. You know that you are a different person, uh, and at different times. This is true at any point in your life. You're going to be different person when you're 5 years old versus 15 versus 25 versus 55 versus 105. Different people physically, right? So in a real way, different. You will be a different person as time goes on. You are not done forming, growing until you ascending, until you physically die. So but same is true within a 24-hour period as well. Somebody wakes you up at 3 a.m., you're going to be groggy and won't know what hit you. They ask you to add two numbers, you're going to be perhaps unable to, or whatever, right? Um, but at 3 p.m., when you are alert, you are a different person. You can do things that you couldn't do. Um, that's why we have transitionary periods, such as warm ups before you do a workout, right? And when you do a workout, you might put on some kind of a heavy metal music to like pump you up, right? And for a while there, you won't necessarily be working out. You're going to be at a heavy metal concert, moshing your head, off, etc., right? So these different spirits, different sprites, different essences of being what it means to be human inhabit our bodies throughout the day, throughout time. And and so you may or may not be an agent of chaos right now, this moment. But that doesn't mean that you won't be or that you weren't. As far back as we can trace, the goddess Eris was worshipped by the ancient Greeks as the deity of strife. I read that already. What is the Discordian Society? There are three movements of Discordianism at large in the world today. Actually, there are five, but two are remaining hidden where we can't find them. Generally, there is the Aristesquetmo, that fucking word, which is absolutely convinced that it is ordering the entire world into a more manageable one, but in fact bungles things so badly that it perpetrates divine chaos to a delightful degree. How easy any of this would be to any well-developed bureaucracy. A few people fall into the erastic movement. Eristic avatars are individual manifestations of chaos in thought and action. If you find one, handle them with care. They are precious. And then the lay compilers of truth, a brilliant bunch that writes Discordian Holy Writ without even having an introduction to Eris, or the Arisian Mysteries. For example, the recent bestseller Catch-22 by Joseph Heller is a marvelous eristic work. But none of this represents esoteric enlightenment, and to this end we present the Arisian movement, a group dedicated to the theological understanding of Eris and the principle of discord, and to disorganizing into one grand chaotic religion all those who can gain sufficient insight. The history of the Arisian movement, paraphrased from the Honest Book of Truth by Lord so-and-so. Discordianism as a disorganization was founded back in 1958 or 59 or something, when my colleague, now Malaclips the Younger, and I were observing the chaos spread out before us, the immediate vicinity, the state, the nation, the world, virility, the universe, when all of a sudden the air became still and no sound arose from around us, and for no apparent reason the glare became black as the bowels of midnight. Then a piercing scream arose from my friend hidden in the dark, and the earth began to rumble. Then light of fantastic intensity from nowhere, yet from everywhere, and then nothing but stillness, and I could stay cautious no longer. Eventually I came to find men in the aisles weeping and women mysteriously prostrate across the lanes. We were in a bowling alley at the time, and there before me Malaclips the Younger in a spasmodic fit on the floor. Quite obviously something profoundly supernatural had occurred. My friend was revived and stammered out the following account of his vision. In other words, they did 5 grams but omitted silent darkness. Use with caution. It's supposed to be 5 grams in silent darkness, not at a bowling alley where you have so much stimuli. It is obvious now how blind we have been. All of this chaos could not have just happened. It is no coincidence that Pickering's moon goes around in reverse orbit, or that the Pentagon is riddled with, I founded upon confusion. Somebody had to put all this discord here. Yes, 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 shouted I, for then it was clear now once stated. Cried he, and you, my friend, and I have a holy appointment. Together we shall found a new religion, the true religion, under the guidance of the supernatural power you just witnessed, that of the goddess of discord. And with that he promptly swooned again, not to awaken for 5 days and 5 nights. Maybe he did more than 5 grams. Over the next 5 years, we together probed and researched the philosophies of the world, discovering that the Greeks and the Romans had known her in an imperfect form, and that she had lain past, sorry, lain all but dormant as a known deity for 2,000 years. As time passed, the work continued, an insight followed, glorious insight. The Aresian Discordianism was born. The organization of the Aresian movement. Generally, Aresian Discordianism are the Legion of Dynamic Discord, and the Legionnaires, they respect chaos of all sorts, acknowledge the divine status of Ares, and pass out literature and things. Upon acceptance into the Legion, which is granted upon request, they receive a packet of all sorts of garbage explaining the details of the Discordian society, a beautiful Discordian society emblem suitable for framing, and a certificate to show their esoteric status in the Aresian movement as a legionnaire. There's also an aristocracy, the House of the Apostles of Ares, that is headed by the Golden Apple Corpse in honor of the Golden Apple of Discord, the only extant myth concerning Ares. The episcoposis, members of the house, are qualified to speak in the name of Ares and can be relied upon to have a profound understanding of the Aresian mystery, which is necessary for ascendance into the house mouse. A legionnaire can solicit for episcoposis status by presenting an eristic work for examination by the Golden Apple Corpse, and if he is found to have exceptional insight, he will be ascended. How can you become a Discordian? In the first place, if you have read this far, you have probably been a Discordian all along, whether or not you were aware of it before now. Properly, the question should be, how may I join the Legion of Dynamic Discord and hence learn the esoteric truths of the Aresian mysteries? The answer is quite simple. Just write a letter announcing your desire to enter the Legion and present it to the Legionnaire that has shown you this pamphlet. He will pass it on to the episcoposis, who will officially admit you. Remember this pamphlet, but scratches the surface and our doors are open, except that we don't have a building. Gather around, children. The time has come to disorganize. Okay. Right. We only stole from the bankers what the bankers stole from the people. Amen. Cool. How to tell a true Illuminatus, as taught by the illuminated ones of Constantinople in the year 723 AD by the wisdom of Zohos. The eye depicted on the pyramid emblem represents the third eye, which manifests itself at the time of an initiate's illumination. The third eye is part of that Trinity, right? It's the Holy Spirit. The Father, the right eye, the Son, the left eye, or the Wadjet eye and the Horus eye, the eye of Horus and the eye of Wadjet, right? And then the third eye is the Holy Spirit eye. It's the Tao. It's the one that can't be conceived of, right? Now remember your back table, there's a fourth, the hidden fourth. There's always a hidden one, right? That's the lesson of the hidden fourth. Why do I keep saying that? Even if there are 10 things in a pack, whatever kind of pack you might have, okay, there's always a hidden thing. There's always someone directing the pack, something directing the pack, right? It's the hidden thing. It's the elusive fourth. even if you have 10 in a set. You understand? If you should question the authenticity of a person claiming to be illuminated, merely wait for an opportune moment and casually look up his arse. And if you find an eye peering back at you, he's indeed an illuminated one. There you go. So, as a child, I remember drawing pictures like this. Um, and it's quite accurate, right? The degree to which it's accurate is astounding. Yes, yes, of course, on the surface level, we're making fun of those who take themselves too seriously, particularly those of the spiritual bent or do-goodniks, etc. Right? Um, Relax, it's just a game. But it's also instructive, to become illuminated. You are to look up your own arse. Uh, well, of course, metaphorically speaking, I can't do it otherwise. So how else would I be speaking? Um, and this takes different forms in different societies. In Amazon jungle, it's an ayahuasca trip. In Park Avenue, New York City, it's an hour at the shrink's office twice a week, or something like that. Um, when in moments of extreme pain, we are capable of looking up our own arse. Uh, if you have a seizure, Nietzsche famously used to have seizures. It was a great handicap of his, which made him bedridden most of his life, which in turn caused him to think such brilliant thoughts, one might say. But seizures can lead to brilliant flashes of illumination, I'm told. Never had the experience, thank God. 5 grams in silent darkness will do the trick as well. That's a sort of um, a mycelium induced seizure of sorts. But all of that can be pictographically represented as us looking up our own arse, oraborically, right? Snake eating its own tail. You looking up your own arse, Ouroboros. It's well, it's necessary, but as one of the greatest philosophers of our time once said, don't use those things against another person. Reggie Watts. Okay, what's this? Ah, I see. So this is the organizational chart. How nice. 5 windows with washers. Anti-God bad. Opposites in conflict, opposites in unity, opposites transcended, fourth. Oh, okay. So that's cool. Let's see. 5 windows. Good, anti-good, good and bad. Subjects and objects are real. Self is subject. Concepts are true or false. Promote goodness. Resist wrongness. Who is the enemy? What helps? pain hurts. Treat people as you want them to treat you. Live and let live. Your life and all life is reinforced by your positive efforts, I want to say. Exposing exposing incompatibles. Anticipate. Calibration progress is honest self-appraisal. Seek clarity, right? Carefully. What is banner carefully? Oh, that's an interesting way of phrasing it. Banner carefully. Select select your banner carefully. Right. I think that's what that says. It means um, um, broadcast your affiliations publicly in a prudent, cautious way. That's what that means. Sometimes it's confusing. Fear not. There's no absolute failure. Yeah, you are God's natural, loved, real child now and always. Okay. Each window is but a clarification of the prior one. A window view does not deny an arrow view, it expands. You grow what you plant. Right, okay. Okay, so, right, we start with the concepts of good and evil, right? All Disney movies are a struggle between good and evil, but eventually you go to college and you read Nietzsche, and he writes beyond good and evil. And that's what opposites in unity is. So, wholeness, right? That's that line I mentioned earlier that you got to walk. I got to go pee again. It is my director's wand. Process is real. Amen. Self is interaction of the subject object concepts are both true and false. Sure. Love. What hangs up a process? Interesting. Give the frustrated a more appropriate alternative. What is an enemy? Action yields reaction. Do what you wish, harm no one. Sure. Yeah, that's really great. Do what you wish, man. Harm no one. Your life is all life is maybe created by your positive will. Teach by exposing, I want to say confluences, consequences. Illuminate. Liberation freedom is through clear game appraisal. Seek self mastery. Make your own banner with devotion. Yes. Sometimes it is discordant. Fear not. There is no absolute death. You are free now and always. Right. Exactly. Now, this is opposites transcended. ultimate, universal, super maternal? Super maternal. So super maternal. Okay. Behind process is real. Self is cosmic. Yes, concepts are meaningless. Yes, yes, compassion, there is no enemy. Yes. Stay awake. Yes. Your whole life is rewarded by your positive visual. Yeah. Teach by exposing the superior. Sure. Demonstrate. Okay. Liberation, perfection is through wise. Can't tell. Seek linking? Wise? I don't know. Seek nothing. Disregard all banners. Yes. Sometimes it is chaotic. Fear not. There's no problem. You are perfect now and always. There's not the same thing from which one needs to be liberated. Never mind. There is there is not something from which one needs to be liberated. Right. It is nothing from which one needs to be liberated. Never matter. Brilliant. Right, because it's all death avoidance. These cultural constructs and games that we play are all, in some sense, death avoidance, as per the hmm, Ernest Becker. I almost forgot his name. Ernest Becker. Denial of death. It's good stuff. The Stephen Decatur Our Country, Right or Wrong. Okay, so what is this? President the White House, Your Reverence. As a loyal and patriotic American, I'm. So this appears to be a letter that they wrote to Nixon. Okay, let's see what they wrote. Huh. The Stephen Decatur Society, Our Country, Right or Wrong. A vast, well financed, worldwide, super secret, super patriotic band of militant, dedicated fanatics. President Richard Nixon, the White House, Washington, D.C., Your Reverend. As a loyal and patriotic American, I am concerned about the growing pessimism, alienation, and mood of tombstone finality infesting this country, and I have a positive suggestion to help remedy the situation. As you know, fiscal apprehension is one of the most common causes of the anxiety of our time, and as the withdrawal from Vietnam drags onward and outward, into Leo, Cambodia, etc., the monetary screaming memeless are hitting, or nameless, memeless, monetary screaming memeless, are hitting more and more middle and lower middle income families, even out here in Evanston. What I suggest is that you have millions and millions of bumper stickers in red, white, and blue printed up and distributed to loyal patriotic Americans of the so called silent majority type. Those of us who are working too hard to have time to counter demonstrate against the commies and panarchists and hapcats. These bumper stickers should say, "Save your Federal Reserve notes and keep the faith. The federal government will rise again." I think this would create a new mood of hope, faith, and at least long range optimism. I will look forward to your comments and tell Spyro to give them hell. Positive program for responsible extremism, better than liberal. I have not yet begun to fight. You may fire when I'm ready, Gridley. Don't let them immanentize the eschaton. Immanentize the Whoa! Don't let them immanentize the eschaton. Eschaton is the end of times. I have no idea what immanentize means. Let's see. In political theory and theology, the immanentize the eschaton, means trying to bring about the eschaton in the imminent world. In all those contexts, it means trying to make that which belongs to the afterlife happen here and now. Whoa. Right, so they're trying to bring about the end of days. Don't let them bring about the end of days. Interesting. Millions of defense air, but not a damn cent for tribute. I mean, that means like ancestral tributes. Give me liberty or give me death. Nuts. I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country. Liberty and union, one inseparable noun. Send the Marines to turn on the water. Retreat. Hell, we just got here. Don't tread on me. The price of liberty is eternal vigilance. Okay. Okay. So I don't know if this is part of the book or a collection of like letters. Okay, but we'll keep going through it, I guess. The revelation of Eris. Discordianism was founded by revelation in 1958 or 59 or something by Malaclips the Younger and Lord Omar. The two were observing the chaos and discord spread through their lives when Lord Omar was seized by a mystic fit. When he was finally revived, he stammered, "How blind were we been? It's so obvious now. All of this confusion could not have just happened. Somebody had to put all this discord here." Whereupon, Mal, too, as he is affectionately called, saw a vision of Eris and received instruction quite incompatible with those she gave Lord Omar, and the Arisian movement was born. Since then, our membership has more than tripled. Why choose Discordianism? It's funny, right? They disagreed at the onset and built it into the religion. That's hilarious. Organized religion can no longer serve the inspirational needs of the modern consumer. So hilarious. It cannot keep up with the swift pace of scientific discoveries, which now all the really good religions' ideas must do, at least long enough to become accepted as traditions, too sacred to examine. Right. The DS offers an alternative to organized religion, thus evading such problems entirely. Disorganized religion. Disorganized religion, and only disorganized religion, recognizes such immutable laws as the law of fives, which was so recently rediscovered for science by the Aristotelian philosopher mathematician Lord Omar. That is, as Krishna Argumentum, one of the five apostles of Eris, put it, truth is five, but men have only one name for it. So, in other words, there are five sides to every story, right? It's not even three, it's not even five, right? It's the number that it's always plus one. Truth is always plus one. So interested have men been with order throughout history that they have left another field entirely neglected: disorder. Science is unable to explain, for example, why today's world goes right on ignoring science. Didn't we read this already? Hmm. They're repeating some of their most famous hits. That's cool. Why are the secrets of the atom used to promote chaos among men? Why are the most generous motives of men played upon to produce quasi slavery? Why do otherwise sane people attend church on Sunday? The purpose of the Discordian Prince Society Eretion movement is to provide false, comforting answers to questions of this sort, to give metaphysical reasons for the disorder around us, to promote unworkable principles of discord, in short, to provide the world with a workshop for the insane, thus keeping us out of mischief as presidents, ambassadors, priests, ministers, or other dictators. The DS is the hottest item to hit the holy market since Islam. If you have the wit, come join the gathering sages. If you have but half the wit, come join someone else's flock and get fleeced. Okay, behold, would you like to have an esoteric power over others? Yes, I would. Have you ever secretly wondered why the Great Pyramid has 5 sides, counting the bottom? Do you sometimes suspect that the ancients knew something that you do not? Of course. Have you ever felt that hidden eyes were watching you? What is the matter with you? Behold, the Aresian movement has discovered the ultimate answer to all metaphysical speculation, that chaos and confusion is behind it all. Yeah? Hark. For the first time in the history of men, in the history of the universe, authentic wisdom has spread the veil of mysterious reality. At least, the false religions and pseudo philosophies that have smothered men's intellectual potentials must fall aside for now. Yes, now, the true nature of natural truth is available to those who have the breath of wisdom to understand it. Forsooth, the goddess Eris has revealed herself as the one true divinity, the divine manifestation of the immortal principle of discord. Verily, the Greek goddess of discord and strife, Eris, called by the Romans Discordia, was first known imperfectly as part of the pre-Hellenic pantheon. She has since chosen to present herself again in a more perfect form to those mortals who seek profound truth. Her religion is called Eresian, her worshippers and those who in one way or another support her are called Discordians. The organization built around her presentation is the Discordian Society. Holy chow, you can become an Aresian yourself. John Dillinger died for you. Fact sheet on Saint John the Martyr, to dispel old myths and rumors and replace them with new ones. Was John Dillinger a murderer? John Herbert Dillinger, as he was known to his parents, lived from 1903 to 1934, so a mere 30 years. Was never convicted of homicide in any court at any time, while this was partly due to the inability of the police to ever hold him in custody long enough for him to be brought to trial. The fact remains, on the record, no act of murder has ever proven against St. John. Can any recent American president make the same claim? After hundreds of thousands of our boys were lost in wars they started. Well, damn shit. I assume he has killed people, but, never mind that. In the strictest sense of the word of the law, technically speaking, which is the most important way, isn't it? He was never convicted of homicide. Was Dillinger the worst thief of his time? While it is true that he often found it necessary during those hard Depression years to make withdrawals from banks under somewhat unorthodox circumstances. Dillinger's larceny was actually quite moderate. The people of his hometown, Mooresville, Indiana, in a petition for clemency, wrote to the governor, "It's our opinion that many of the financial institutions of the state have just as criminally robbed our citizens without any effort being made to punish the perpetrators. The perpetrators of those larger robberies are, in fact, still free and still operating their usury ridden banks." Much of what it means to be a person is comes down to what you allow as a thought in your own mind. And everyone and everything, TV, phone, etc., is attempting to implant you with their thoughts. And a lot of that is about what narratives are not explored. Like, is it okay to kill politicians? How come we don't discuss that? I would really like to hear a public debate on that. Could Dillinger walk through walls? Many accept this as the explanation of his remarkable escape from the escape-proof Crown Point jail in 1934, but the John Dillinger Died for You Society does not demand this as an article of faith among members. It's enough to believe that Johnny was a lot smarter than most cops. What contributions did Dillinger make to mankind? John Dillinger pioneered the technique of the non-negotiable demand, now widely in use among dissenters. In fact, he never left a building before his demand was granted. He taught greedy bankers the philosophy of oriental meditation and detachment from materialistic concerns, always advising them kindly, lie down on the floor and keep calm. By his personal example, he proved that even in hard times, a man need not wait for Washington to clear up a mess, but can go out and solve his own poverty problem simply and directly. Wow, they are calling for an direct uprising. So, oh man, I anything that amounts to violence, I can't co-sign. But like in every other way, I support it wholeheartedly. And you know, we don't. Most of us don't have the balls to go and rob a bank, but we could potentially have the balls to consider a possibility that money is not real, right? That could be something that's sort of plausible for us to consider. And if money is not real, in what sense is it not real? And why does it feel like a real thing? You know, that's a real question that we could grapple with ourselves and then answer it by saying crypto. Is it obligatory to pray to St. John? In John's own words, you can get more with a simple prayer and the Thompson submachine gun than you can with a simple prayer alone. Oh, that's funny. Rumors to be spread. Charles Arthur Floyd II, son of Charles Arthur Floyd I, Pretty Boy Floyd, is chairman of the Chicago branch of the John Dillinger Died for You Society and is planning to knock over the Federal Reserve Bank on Wall Street. All 32nd degree Masons are members of the Bavarian Illuminati. Hassan Sabath, president of the Black Lotus Society, is the chief supplier of hashish for Bavarian Illuminati meetings. I would like to know the man. J. Edgar Hoover is really the old Bolshevik Kamenev and is the number one communist agent in America. All grand exalted cyclopses. I recently saw a thing. It was a Russian agent who came over to the U.S. Defuncted, essentially. He said that there was a high-ranking Russian spy placed inside U.S. government, and he had a handle started with a P. Hmm. I want to say pinnacle, but not panacea, parchment. I can't recall the handle, but maybe that was J. Edgar Hoover, right? All grand exalted cyclopses of the Ku Klux Klan are Illuminati members, but no others, not even Imperial Wizard Robert Shelton, are members or are aware that the Klan has been infiltrated. Shirley Temple Black is the secret financial backer of the up against the wall motherfuckers. Attempts were made to recruit Timothy Leary in 1962, but he refused, and Illuminati agents in government have been behind his persecution ever since. The reason Mark Dessat went broke is that he poured all his money into support of the American Revolution. Dessat and Washington disgraced the Illuminati by engaging in sodomite orgies during a secret conspiratorial meeting with John Jamos Ottoman and other Illuminati leaders in a secret location, the Mayan ruins. Jesus Christ, man. It's like this stuff is literally happening right now. The QAnon and Kek, the cult of Kek, and the pedogate and the Pizzagate, right? Um, so wow, this was like this could potentially this is what they call plausible deniability, right? It's like you put it in some obscure document or not so obscure document, so that later, when a lunatic comes out and says J. Edgar Hoover is a Russian spy, you can point to a text such as this, some fringe text that um, has that line in it, and that alone will completely discredit the claim, right? So, sodomatic orgies during a sacred conspiratorial meeting with so on, right? Um, that's 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 one way to spread chaos. And these are the rumors. Washington grew hemp at Mount Vernon. This one happens to be true, but spread it anyways. Accidents have a strange way of happening to people who know too much about the Bavarian Illuminati. That's hilarious. Every time the message in thanks to St. Jude for favors granted appears in the personnel's comment of a newspaper, it means that the Illuminati have completed another successful assassination. In thanks to St. Jude for favors granted. Of course, the Illuminati and I don't know, Stuggy know all about the orgasm death gimmick long before Burroughs put it into his books. Okay. Troy Donahan, Loretta Young, Regis Blah, governing board of the Canadian Illuminati. Okay. Okay, so this is the world's oldest and most successful conspiracy. His High Reverence. Okay. So I suppose they used this form, like a Bavarian Illuminati newsletter or an internal memo, to deliver their chapter. This chapter in particular, I guess. We'll see. Let's see what this says. Dear brother, in response to your request for unclassified agitprop to be inserted in new edition of Principia, hope the following will be of use, and please stop bothering us with your incessant letters. All this extant records show we were well established in Atlantis circa 1800s BC under Kull, the ex-galley slave who had ascended to the throne of Volusia, revived by Palians of Kuth circa 10,000 BC, possibly he who taught the inner teachings to Conan the Samaria after Conan became knight of Aquilonia. Firad brought the Western Hemisphere by Conan and taught the Mayan priesthood. Conan is Quetzalcoatl, that was Joshua and Kumo, Mayan date, revived by Abdul al-Zahrad in his infamous Al-Azhif circa 800 AD. Al-Azhif translated into Latin, but also, okay, the founding of the... Man, they really bury you with dates and whatnot, huh? Traditions now, of course, through Hans the Ancient illuminated seers. Okay, our teachings are not, I remind you, available for publication. Nor harm, though, in admitting that some of them can be found disguised in the Necronomicon, the King James translation of the Holy Bible. All right. The general location of the HQ, incidentally, has been recently exposed, so you are now authorized to release the following. It's located deep in the labyrinth of, severe beneath sewers beneath Dealey Plaza in Dallas, and is presided over by the Dalai Lama. That's funny. That's all they know, though, so we are probably will not have to move after all. Nevertheless, enclosed are some plans for several new potential locations. Please review and add any comments you feel pertinent, especially regarding the eristic manifestations of the Pentagon location. Okay. Okay, that's sludgy nonsense. I have now officially banned all. I would like to point out to you, however, that you have only scratched the surface of the music problem. The communists are merely a front for an older and more diabolical group, the ancient illuminated seers of Bavaria. These so-called seers, founded by Adam Weisenhop and notorious blah blah blah. All right. Dear Art Kunkling, you are probably beginning to wonder what went wrong down in New Orleans, so I thought I'd let you in secret. We are an order of the Peacock Angel, known the answer to all mysteries, but we hardly ever reveal the answers to outsiders, so consider yourself honored. One of our agents has uncovered a man who had intercourse with all 12 members of the jury. This is what he discovered. Each and every one of them was missing a left nipple. You may not grasp the significance of this fact at once, even though it was your paper which performed the signal public service of revealing that Clay Shaw is missing a left nipple. Okay. That's funny. The fact is that the missing left nipple is the hereditary sign of the inner ruling clique of the nefarious and infamous Bavarian Illuminati, the super secret Zionist Theosophists group who controlled all international finance and managed wars, revolutions, assassinations, and California weather from behind the scenes. So hilarious. You may well grasp or gasp, but the truth is even more astonishing than that. I've already revealed the Discordian Society, a group of sincere humanists formed in 1958 to seek A final solution of the Bavarian Illuminati problem has itself been infiltrated by the insidious Illuminatis. The so-called leader of the Discordian Orthodoxy, Carrie Wendell Thornley, lies dead, shot in the Dallas jail corridor, while the man who is pretending to be Thornley today is none other than Lee Harvey Oswald, the second Thornley, suggested in the hypothesis put forth so brilliantly by Feng, though unwashed and Malaclips the younger. Fang the Unwashed and Malaclips the Younger, leaders of the reformed wing of the Discordian movement. There are even more amazing disclosures which cannot be made at this time, but keep listening to Mark Lane and Jim Carrison. You will hear lots of stuff guaranteed to send a shiver down your spine, and every word of it, literally gospel, is true. But this letter will last. It fall into the hands of the CIA or WCT or some other front group for the Illuminati. Remember, these paranoids are organized and never stop plotting against us. That's funny. They're like a bunch of instigators, you know? It's can't read that. But I think I get the gist, you know? It's spread discord and rumors and establish a relationship with institutions that are way outside of your league. These are some kind of memos, I guess. Okay, well, I don't know if I can. I don't know. I stumbled upon knowledge of the Dead Sea President scrolls purely by chance, unless. Okay, they were forgotten. Okay. Well, it's interesting. The I mean, I love the idea. You know, it's like, what if we removed all the pretense, you know, and just went with the truth, and that is to say that nobody knows anything. Authority is illusion. Well, there it is. I hope you enjoyed this reading. I know it was a pleasant afternoon for me. Cheers.